Hi, this is Bud Rebel, and this is the Bud Rebel Show. I'm interviewing Corey, who's
Hi.
Hi, Corey. How
Hi.
you doing? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, bud.
Now, Corey, you're a barista.
Yeah, I'm a barista.
Now, Corey, I'm going to ask you some difficult questions nowadays.
I'm ready.
Thank you, because we live in very different times right now. When I was brought up, and different generations, so I think we need to have a little understanding between the generations, between let's say the sexes, between what's going on,
Yeah.
so that we can help each other in a sense. Basically, the Bud Rebel name really is to be buddy and to be a little bit of a rebel. But in being the buddy part, you want to be a jerk, basically, to say
Well,
the truth.
sure, yeah.
But you also just want to be yourself.
Well, right, of course.
And so, the point about this whole sexual harassment,
Yeah.
I want to have a better understanding as a whole. So, as a barista, let's just say you're friendly to people, they want a tip and stuff.
Oh, sure.
Let me give me an example where something like that would cross the line with you. Has that anything happened to you in that area?
Oh,
personally?
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how graphic I'm allowed to get, but there was one time at a Starbucks. I don't dye my hair pink anymore because of this, because it happens every time I dye my hair pink. And so there was this guy who came in, and I don't know, we were like joking around, but I guess he like thought we were flirting for like weeks. And then like he like came in one day, it was la di da, joking, whatever, and then he left the store, and then he called the store like on the store phone asking for me. So I was like, hey, yeah, this is Corey, and he's like, so are you gonna like meet me up behind the dumpster, and we're gonna get together? I'm like, no. And he got embarrassed, and then he never came back.
Now, it's an interesting point, and I don't know how to say this, because how about if you liked that person? And I mean, I'm not saying you're a dumpster person. Don't get me wrong.
No, I mean,
But let's say
he
I'm
was
not.
a 57-year-old man.
Okay, I understand. No, and again, I don't want to be rude. So please don't get me the wrong way. In this,
Yeah.
there are people, there are older women, younger women that like older men, and
Sure.
the older women that like younger men.
Well, yeah.
So let's say you liked this man, and he was older than you.
I mean,
How would you approach it? How would that happen? Let's just say, in your end.
well, I mean, if I knew then what I know now, I would have asked him how much. But at this point, it's like, it's like, do you want the money? Do you want like someone who's gonna like give you a house, but probably not?
No, but
There's a lot that goes into that.
But I'm not talking about what I mean. I'm not talking about that type of thing. I'm talking about, let's say you attracted somebody who was older, or vice versa, a woman that was
Sure.
older. So I'm just trying to, you really like somebody, but again, they're crossing the line. Even if, like right now, we have a situation with the governor.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I don't know what crosses the line of a joke
Mm-hmm.
to being something that's offensive and hurtful. To me, if somebody said something and to me and it bothered me and I felt comfortable, I might say to them, listen, lay off. And if they laid off, I just let it go, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
Is that would do the same thing with you?
No, unfortunately, that doesn't really happen for like young women or female presenting people that often. A lot of times, there's a lot of harassment that goes along with looking like a woman or presenting like a woman. And unfortunately, when you say to lay off, they take that as, okay, I'm going to persist harder.
No, that's where I think they become a jerk. Well, I'm trying to
Yeah.
say to you, I'm just saying initially, if someone makes a joke, I mean, again, I would never say what the governor said, and I'm definitely not a big fan of the governor. But if someone made a stupid joke, let's play strip poker, I think it's stupid. I would say, come on, that's stupid, whatever.
Yeah.
If someone persisted, then we know is just the first thing they said.
Yeah.
Whatever stupidity is that sexual harassment to you, or is it the persistence of doing it that makes it sexual harassment?
Well, I mean, I think it's situational. I mean, if you're, I don't know, say you're like in a business meeting where you're like trying to figure out what are we going to do with $200,000 of funding for something. Would you be like, yo, let's go to the strip club and we're going to put you, Martha, on that stage in the strip club? Ha 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 ha. And everyone in the entire office laughs. That would be maybe a little bit, kind of uncomfortable for that person because it makes them feel like they're being preyed on in a way. Is
Interesting.
that what, that's not what they
Right.
went to school for.
So in a sense, again, it's the appropriateness when it happens, where it happens, type
Yeah,
of
sure.
thing.
Like if you're in the bar and like you had a couple drinky drinks and you're like, yo, suck my dick. I mean, I think that's hilarious. But if you're like, you know, at the coffee shop and you're like a 50-year-old man and a 16-year-old's trying to give you coffee because you wanted it. And then you're like, meet me behind the dumpster so you can suck me off. That would be a little inappropriate.
Yeah, I can understand that. It definitely would not come out of his mouth. But what I've seen, it's right. Because I'll give you a quick example. My mother-in-law, she when she was younger, when she walked by, people would whistle at her.
Yeah.
And she took it as a compliment. She took it as, well, I'm looking good. I
Yeah.
think nowadays, if people whistle at you when you walk by, some people get offended by that.
Well, it's not as much as it's like offensive as it is like it could be a call to danger. Because like sometimes there's people that like whistle and it's like a gang thing, and then like you end up like Tupac, and like you don't want to end up like Tupac, like.
Right. That makes no. I understand that.
And
No, but I'm just curious about, like, again, the idea of, you want to look like, okay, so I mean, I've heard other people say, like, if a 50-year-old person said to you, "Oh, you look really pretty," is that bad or good, or that, I mean, those type of lines. It doesn't make it does that, and not just for you. I'm just trying to understand I'm talking to you. That's why.
Yeah.
But generational, I guess, is there a difference if somebody says you look really pretty versus you look sexy? I mean, is it the lines? There are certain lines, and which would be where those lines cross, and that type of thing.
Well, I mean, my parents' friends have been like, like, oh, you look good, or I don't know. One of my least favorites is you clean up well, and I'm just like, oh, so I'm not clean, like every other day, dope. But like, I don't know. I don't think anybody should be using sexy as a compliment unless you're like in the bedroom together and it's like consensual together. Like that's the only time things are allowed to be sexy is when you're like down for the sex.
Right. I understand what you're saying. And just like your feeling about this whole Cuomo allegations. I don't know. And also, again, I don't know, our philosophies might be different. I have a feeling. But are we doing the standards the same? For example, if somebody has a different philosophy, are they being judged by their, quote, sexual harassment differently than if somebody else has it? Because as we see, Cuomo's still in office and he's got 10 allegations. Yeah. And then you have somebody else who may be on the right who has one allegation and they're going to hang him on the roof. And my question, though, first of all, when you listen to Cuomo's allegations and you hear about that, any of them gross you out? Any of them say this is just over the board? Or you just say, okay, or whatever? What are you seeing? Have you heard them, and what your thoughts on that are?
I mean, I think some of them are pretty gross, and especially like he's kind of an old crusty kind of dude. Like I wouldn't appreciate any of that from a crusty old guy, really. And I don't know, like some of those women probably wouldn't have even been hired had they not like looked good in their interview and stuff. And but then there's also the other argument of like there's Cuomo and Clinton. Like Clinton, like, he slept with his intern, but it was consensual all in all. And like him and Monica, they got flamed for that. And like poor Monica was just like trying to like be young and have fun. And so it comes to like values versus like is this really upsetting and offensive and just like overall rude to say? Like I think it's kind of both. I
think it's interesting you brought up Monica, because that was my generation, and I thought it was sleazy for several reasons. My own personal thing. First, it's the White House, and you don't do things like, there's certain amounts of decorum you have in the White House. And number two, she was his intern. That could have been my daughter going to the White House, working there with a 50-year-old guy, and she's trying to be professional, and he was a married man, and he's still president of the United States, and he should have had the maturity, because he actually let her on that I love you and all that stuff about that thing just to use it. And that's the same idea. Like, I don't think it's, maybe it's not sexual harassment, but the idea that you try to manipulate somebody for that purpose is wrong. Well, and it came from the president of the United States. And I'm not saying, and listen, I'm sure it happens both ways. So that was what I felt was wrong as an adult, that you would do that to another person.
Well, sure, but I mean, there's also part of it. I think it was like kind of an unspoken thing that the Clintons, like, they're kind of like swingers. Like, have you ever seen Bob and Ted and Carol and Alice and whatever? I don't know. It's an old weird movie about swingers from the 60s that I watched in film school. And it was kind of like okay, like this is the argument for being a swinger. Is it wrong? Is it morally wrong, or is it just like like if somebody wants is in a consensual throuple or something and they're polyamorous, like is that okay if it's if they're all in it together?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I always remember that very well. How Hillary, either she's a very good actress, or she was embarrassed that he got caught, or I don't know. That was a whole thing where those days it was she stood by her man, and he was innocent, and all this was a whole thing. But we're getting off the target a little bit. I'm just trying to see my point of view that I say is, if I'm getting this right, is basically, treat someone as you want to be treated.
Well, yeah, of course.
And the idea is if it bothers them, just stop.
Right.
And at the same point, if you're bothered by something, tell somebody.
Of course.
So like for one person might be offended. I mean, it's funny because if we were in France, a guy kisses you on the two sides of your face.
Well, I don't like France. I don't like the French.
But so if they did that, that's the culture of what is in France. And in the United States, we before this whole coronavirus, we used to hug each other. And now
I don't touch anybody.
And now it's a whole different world. I mean, if you watch baseball games,
Sure.
they tap each other on the tuchus.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't like a tap on the tuchus either.
So my point is this, but if it
Do you like
bothers,
a tap on the tuchus?
I don't like a tap on the tuchus.
Exactly. There you
So
go.
the point of the matter is, I guess it depends on your culture and what offends you as a person. And if you notify the other person, it bothers you. But then again, my other note that I was going to mention is, if we get too sensitive to say certain things, we become so scared in our little boxes we don't say anything. So that like, there's a two I guess a sword, you might say the word.
Yeah, I mean it's up to personal preference. Of like what people want to say. Like it's okay to like have people be like they say something out of line. You'd be like, hey. I don't know. I was kind of uncomfortable with that thing you said. Could you maybe just, table that for now? And then the other person should be like, oh, okay. Sorry about that. Didn't know. And you should be able to move on from that. And I get that, like, some people, like, they like, can't move on from that.
Right. And some can't move on from that. And some people, you feel like you got to table everything. So you don't feel like talking anymore.
Well, I mean, well, that's when you need therapy.
But it's there's a line where it gets to be everyone's too sensitive, and that's where I'm scared of too, because this whole cancel culture is a scary thing to me.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know what, just have a conversation, and just lay it out, and if you're a decent person, you can understand. And matter of fact, not just what I think, in a sense, if you can explain why it bothers you,
Yeah.
Maybe just say, listen, it bothers me because this reminds me of something and usually a person that's got some type of would say, okay, I understand where you're saying from,
Yeah, of course. Sure. I mean, but then there's some people who, like, even above and beyond that, they still just don't care, or they still just, will disrespect it just because it's not their trauma. It's not their issue that they experienced in their life, so they don't care about it.
And, that goes back to my generational thing. Because when I was growing up, it was sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Yeah.
And the idea was that they can call you anything, nothing. Yeah. And if you cried and if you got upset, you're weak. It was never, ever about that. As long as someone didn't throw a punch at you, or maybe they insulted your mother, you can throw a punch at. But other than that, they can call you. Okay. Other than that, you had to be tough and take it. Yeah. And that, again, that's the difference of the culture, I guess, the society you brought up in, because it was just like, everyone can say whatever they want, and you just couldn't get mad about it.
Right, yeah. I mean, I have this coworker at Starbucks, and he grew up in Pakistan, so he's like an immigrant. He came here like, year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I've cried to him multiple times over the pandemic, and he says, first of all, don't cry. And he like will tell me don't cry, because that's what weak people do. And then he goes into like this story. I've gotten this story twice from him. This is how he tries to like pep talk me. He's like, I grew up on a dirt floor. And you know what? Now I don't live on a dirt floor. And you know why? Because I didn't cry about it. So, and I'm like, well, you know what? You're right. I didn't grow up on a dirt floor, and you did. And you had to work your way to not sleep on a dirt floor. And You know, I could be sleeping on a dirt floor.
So it's an interesting way to look at life, and again, different perspectives. So I think in the end, if we're gonna just wrap this up, Corey, I would say very simply, the old book that comes it through.
Yeah.
Do it as you would want done unto you.
Yep.
And if we leave it like that, I think we should be good.
Hashem, amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you.